And looks like we're not getting an intro tonight here on Look Around Confederation. Of course, we're not on the Tennessee Tuesday schedule tonight, so the background looks a little different. So we went straight live tonight, so we won't have our intro. But again, Look Around Confederation. I'm John Blankenship. Jason Boshears is with me as our co-host, and our special guest tonight is Mr. Roy Hudson, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the S.C.V., and we're going to be talking to him for the next hour. We'll also have a little bit of news from around the Confederation we'll share at the end of the program tonight, and some things that are happening that have been sent in to us, and we want to make sure we put that out as well. As you can see, I am not Moose, I am not Connor, either one of those guys, and our T-Rex is with us tonight. We've got a great show planned, and we hope you'll be with us as we hear from Mr. Hudson. We've got some questions for him tonight that, and of course in the chat as well, you'll be able to kind of talk along with us. But we do have a list of questions tonight, just like Mr. LeRae also had. He has these questions as well. We'll go through those and give him an opportunity to answer, and we'll hear his platform and hear his vision tonight. So, Jason, you want to jump in and say hello to us tonight? What you been up to?
Well, hello, everybody. And I've popped up here a few times lately on Thursday hosting the show, and it looks like I might end up being one of the regulars here on the second Thursday because from what I understand from Harrison, he has a camp meeting that he needs to attend on this night. So it's an honor to be here, John. It's always wonderful to work with you. Last time I hosted this show, you actually got there and did a great job and helped because we were having some issues that night with staying live and audio and video issues. And thank you for that. Thank you for your help on that time. And as always, it's great to be here with Roy. I've enjoyed every time I've ever talked to Roy, been around him. And Roy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, sir. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, before we get into asking Roy some questions tonight, a little bit of his background, Jason, I know folks have probably seen this, and we're going to try to do something special this weekend too. You've been busy today at the national headquarters at Elm Springs and talking a little bit about the forest statue, the equestrian statue, the graves, and the plaza being rebuilt, kind of an update. And you don't really have to give the whole update tonight, but there are some videos that you've got out there now on social media and kind of giving our membership in the S.C.V. an update.
Yes, sir. And the point was to get the news out to everybody because we're entering a threshold moment. We're very shortly, we're going to have all of the drawings. What has happened this week, and it happened on Tuesday, was the architects and the engineers showed up again. You know, they came and they did all their measurements. They came back, eyeballed everything again. They came back Tuesday and remeasured, relooked, because as you know, with the project that is this size, and I used the phrase today that you measure twice and cut once. Well, these guys have measured 3 times to make sure that we have the specs right on how we slope the ground. Because, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, when Nathan Bedford Forrest come out of the ground, and he was in a concrete vault in Memphis. He come out of the ground, they got 8 gallons of water out of his coffin. Yeah. And I'm going, okay, we have that slope, and it's not much of a slope. Southern Middle Tennessee has rolling hills, and it's one of the flattest spots on the ground. But we've got to move dirt. We're going to take what's behind and pull forward, and we're going to have to level everything out and then let everything set, you know, and settle, because you don't want to move all of that dirt and then pour a concrete slab right over the top of it. It's going to crack all to pieces. But so we're going to have to watch how it settles and still keep messing with it. But we're on the threshold of really getting started on this. And they have told me that they wanted to tweak a couple of the drawings, make sure they had some of the GPS points correct. And they had all of the slopes like they needed. And we should be getting complete drawings very soon, and that's going to allow us to go and start getting bids. We're already talked to a few of contractors and stonemasons, and we will soon be having them on site to give us bids. But, you know, don't think in a few days we're going to be doing it. It's going to be probably April before before all of this happens.
Well, Jason,
But
I'm glad you mentioned the details that going into this. This is not just going out there with the dozer, moving some dirt around, randomly setting this plaza back together as it was. A lot of architectural work happening behind the scenes, a lot going into this to make sure it's right, because it's a heavy structure and we don't need the structure sinking back in portions of it.
And you are correct, because we're going to pour a concrete pad, and then all those pieces. I did 5 videos today. 4 of them were strictly on the plaza, and there was one talks about the pieces we're going to have to put back up after we pour the pad. So when we put these pieces up, and it's Tennessee limestone, and they did the calculations, and you hear me talk about it. It's very similar in density to marble, and that is 180 pounds per square foot. So some of the pieces we're looking at, one of them they were looking at, measured it out, did the math. It's 7,500 and odd weight. Yes. Then they have some more of them that are in the 15, 17,000, even all the way up to 22,000 pounds. So we're going to, that's 11 tons. So the concrete has to, it's got to be poured to a certain thickness. It's going to have stuff in it. It's going to have rebar. And we can't just have fresh dirt and then pour that on top of it. We're going to have these gaping holes to come in. So we'll have the concrete that's going to crack, and that's the last thing we want. So we're going to have to get the dirt settled and then watch it as it goes, and then come back and pour a concrete pad. So there's been a whole lot of math that has gone into this. I have seen the paperwork, and it is a lot of math that has gone in. They have been very diligent, because one of the things that we said from the very beginning, and we're working with 2 of Nathan Bedford Forrest's great-great-grandsons. And when you're talking to family and you go, we got to get this right. We can't rush through this. We're going to keep the project moving. Okay. We're not going to just stop and we're going to keep the project moving, but we cannot rush into this. And there
Jason, let me ask this question. I know folks that may be interested in knowing, of course, we've been fundraising towards this project. Are there still funds needed? And if there are, how can they donate towards this project now to help with this? We know it's very expensive to build a monument of this style back, and I know folks may want to help and contribute to this. How can they do that?
Oh, yes, sir. There's still options. We already have the money, but we're always going to be in a fundraising state for this, because we're going to be adding sidewalks, different things like that. The 21st Century Confederate Heroes is the easiest way to come in, because that's $1,000, and you will get an 8x8 paver. And I'll talk about that in one of those videos. But you can still make donations to this. And we're always going to be seeking donations and in fundraising, because we're still going to have, maintenance that we have to perform.
And there's been work done to the equestrian statue, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. That's not a one and done. That's going to be a continuing thing that will be done to preserve this statue, and of course, even the entire plaza itself.
Oh, yes, sir. And I believe we have enough to do the entire project. Okay. From the early guesstimates that people have been giving us, and remember, it's a guesstimate.
Yeah, sure.
Because they haven't seen the plans. Once we see the plans, it could be different. And then, but I believe we've got enough money to do it. As you know, that we were very fortunate in the fact that we had some people who stepped forward and covered our bank note, and that freed up some funds, plus the money coming from the 21st Century Confederate Heroes at $1,000 a pop, and we have over 300 people. That's $300,000. You have, and I'm going to say it's something like 380 people have joined 21st Century Confederate Heroes as $1,000 a pop. You're talking $380,000, and I think that we are good to get this rolling, but we're always going to be in a state of fundraising, because we're still going to have to redo sidewalks. We're still going to have concrete work that we have to do. This is just putting the plaza up. This is the 50 feet wide, 75 feet deep. So that's one project in of itself. Then we have the sidewalk coming from Robert E. Lee up to it. Then we have it leaving there and going over to Elm Springs and the Yellow Brick Road. So we have all of that work that is still going to be ahead of us. So we're going to stay in a constant state of fundraising for this. Easiest way, join 21st Century Confederate Heroes.
And
But
again,
if
they
you-
can go to scv.org and you can find all the information, how you want to give and join.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Well, all right. Well, Jason, good update. And we want to make sure Mr. Hudson has plenty of time tonight. So we want to kind of go ahead and jump into our conversation. And you put on the screen what I was going to do there, that the views and opinions you hear on this broadcast tonight are not of the S.C.V. Or its GEC or any division, brigades, camps, or subsidiaries of our organization. So it's entirely our viewpoints ourselves tonight. So the disclaimer is covered. And we are glad you are here with us. Again, John Blankenship, Jason Boshears here is your host tonight, sitting in for Moose and Connor. And Mr. Roy Hudson is our guest tonight, and we want to welcome him into the program. And we'll kind of break this down, I guess, in two little segments. We'll do the first part here to let you kind of introduce, and then we'll take our first break and then come back and get into if that's all right tonight with you, Mr. Hudson.
Yes, sir.
Well, all right. Well, let's just kind of go ahead and kick it off. Tell the folks that are watching tonight that may not know you, who is Roy Hudson, and kind of how did he get involved in SCV and history in general, and a little bit about your background.
Okay, my name is Roy Hudson. I'm originally from the area of Campbell County or Lynchburg, Virginia. Area there. My family's been in Virginia since 1611. I am the son of Roy Hudson and Virginia Hudson. 5 kids. I'm in the middle. So it's kind of the way that works. We were raised very poor. My father was the youngest of 12 kids with sharecroppers, and my mom was the next youngest of 10 kids.
Oh, wow.
So kind of raised poor, and we were in Virginia, and my dad was a World War II guy, and he was wounded going off Omaha Beach, not Omaha, Utah Beach. And anyway, he came back and he would work 2 and 3 jobs to try to keep money on the table. He had an 8th grade education. And at some point they were in a lot of financial stress. And my mother's sister lived in Maryland. Her husband worked for Glenn Martin Aircraft up there as a master machinist. And she said, y'all ought to come up to Baltimore. There's a lot of jobs. So my father loaded us in the station wagon and headed to Maryland, and we didn't want to go. We wanted to stay in Virginia with our grandparents and our cousins and our friends, but I was in about the 3rd grade. And so Dad took us to Maryland at that point. And I will say that growing up from the beginning, I knew something was special about being Southern, about being Confederate. My mama used to walk around the house singing Bonnie Blue Flag before I knew what it was. There's pictures of us at family reunions with my mother waving a battle flag.
Oh, wow.
In the background. And the one story I like to tell is my grandmama, when I was about 5 years old, they lived in an old clapboard house with a tin roof and fireplaces, no heat, wood stove. And she took me to the living room. There's 2 big pictures of Jesus, one knocking on the door, and one is a shepherd. And they're hanging in my house right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then there was another picture of these 2 guys on horseback. And I said to Grandma, Grandma, who are they? And she, well, that's General Lee and General Jackson. She said, every good Southern home has that picture in it. Well, that told me right away how important they were, and I've got that picture hanging on my wall here. So I knew something was special about being Southern. I also knew that all of my grandparents' fathers were Confederate soldiers. So I kind of had that background before I got to Maryland. So we get to Maryland, and we had to live in the projects back in those days, because that's where people didn't have no money, went to live. We lived there for a couple of years. Dad got us out of there into a rental row home at some point. And anyway, so I went to school from partway through the 3rd grade on there, got my schooling in Maryland. Had to fight every day, pretty much, or at least a couple times a week, because I was a hillbilly and I wasn't from there. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting way to have to grow up. But I did exceptionally well in school. They skipped me a grade because I was, quote, smart.
Oh, wow.
And all that was really good. My 4th grade teacher wrote a letter home to Mom saying, if Roy keeps this up, he'll be the historical advisor to the president. And all those grades were really good until I hit about 15. And then I found a couple of things that led me down the wrong path,
Yeah.
which were girls and cars. So,
Mhm.
so anyway, at that point, I cared nothing more about school. I was working, had money to buy a car, I had gas, and told my dad, I want to quit school. And my father and mother shows you the generation they come from. They said, we made a promise when we got married that all of our boys will finish high school. Didn't matter about the
Mhm.
girls. Matter of fact, my older sister quit school at 16 and got married and went.
Mhm.
So my father says, you're not getting out of school. You're gonna graduate. So anyway, I went through the teenager stuff where all of a sudden my dad, who was my hero, they were a strict Southern Baptist and I didn't want to be like them. And so as soon as I graduated from high school, I joined the Army. And 5 months later, I found myself in a very unhospitable place and was there for 9 months. And anyway, I got out of the Army and partied for about a year and a half. I still worked 3 jobs,
Mhm.
but I also worked as a bouncer in 2 different bars and a bartender in another bar. Plus, I was driving a truck and working at an auto parts house. So, and did that. And finally, I said, I got to get a real job that's got benefits and so
Yeah.
forth.
Mhm.
And a buddy of mine said, hey, Roy, I'm going down to take the test for the police department. Why don't you go with me? I said, okay. So my buddy Mike and I went down there and they didn't pass he failed his physical because he was colorblind. And a month later, I found myself going to the police academy in 1972. So I became a Baltimore City police officer. Uh, I did foot patrol, I did uniform patrol, and I later did narcotics and vice detective when I was there. Had about 7 years there,
Mhm.
and I took a test for sergeant. And again, I'm a kid with a high school education. Nobody in my family went to college or had a college education, wasn't even thought of. And I studied, and with 1,500 people taking a test, I wound up third on the list. So I was a shoe-in for
Oh,
promotion.
impressive. Very impressive.
And they threw the test out and promoted 25 people that looked different than me because of past discrimination.
Yeah.
So at that point, I went to my boss, who I respected dearly, and I said, Major, I need to talk to you. And he said, shut the door. And I told him, I said, what am I supposed to do? I said, I'm a kid that really studied my butt off. I don't have a college degree. What am I supposed to do? He says, if I had your drive, was as smart as you, and had as much on the ball as you do, I'd get out of here because there's no future for you. So I had a choice. Throw away the 7 years I'd invested, and I did. And I moved south and came to Florida. Went to work for the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office here. So anyway, I'm in my law enforcement career at this point, and it's
Mhm.
about 1990 or 89. I'm reading a Civil War Times magazine, and this is before all these computers and all the stuff that we
Mhm.
have nowadays. And there was an article written by a guy named Baxter Perkinson from Virginia, and he said he was the camp commander of the John Quincy Moore camp, I believe in Petersburg, Virginia. Well, what is Sons of Confederate Veterans? I never heard of them. So I wrote the magazine and said, how can I get this man's address? I need to communicate with him. It took a couple of months, but we exchanged letters and then phone numbers. And he said, well, I'll find you a camp in Florida. I said, good. And he called me back and said, there's no camps near you. So I'm going to sign you up for the John Quincy Moore camp in Virginia. Okay. That
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
fine. And so
Mhm.
for a while, I was kind of like, I had a certificate and I was getting a magazine.
Mhm.
And I went to a couple of reenactments and I ran into some more guys that were involved with S.C.V. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start a camp. So I contacted the division commander at that time, said, I want to start a camp in Fort Pierce. And he says, well, see if you can find some people. So I went talking to the people I knew and stuff, and I came out with about a dozen guys. And we started the Nathan Bedford Forest Camp, 1595, I believe in 1993. And during that time with that camp, I was the commander for 10 years. I was the adjutant. I was the treasurer. I did almost everything in that camp. And that camp is still in existence today, except now it's the G.W. Thomas camp. It's the same number. And I had to move for work. I had to move to Tallahassee to the state capitol for 7 years. So when I went up there, I went to work and found a camp up there that was really good. It was a Colonel David Lang camp up there, and I became the aide de camp to the commander up there and worked up there with them. And then I came back home to Fort Pierce about 8 years later, and I went back to my old camp, and I like learning stuff, and I want to get when I like to go to camps that have historical programs and stuff, and they just weren't doing that. They were totally into reenacting. So I tried a few other camps around, and I wound up in the Captain J.J. Dickison camp in Melbourne, Florida. And since I've been with the Dickison camp, I've been after being there 1 year, I became the first lieutenant commander for the camp and did that for 4 years. And currently I am the aide de camp there because I'm helping breaking new people in, teaching them how to be a commander and so forth. So that's why I was at a e-board meeting this before I came on this today, just because I'm there to help walk these new people learning the business. So anyway, I'm very active in the J.J. Dickison camp. We are a very active camp. We do well. Matter of fact, in April, we'll have our 45th anniversary, and Tony Griffin's coming down to speak to us for that. So we're looking forward to that. So anyway, after working and retiring 3 times, it was decided it was time I should do something else with my wife. My wife gave me a gentle nudge, and it was the hardest thing I ever did was not to work. I'm a driven guy. I'm a type A. I have to be up and doing stuff. So we had an event, and there was a lieutenant commander from the National S.C.V. talked to me one evening, and I said, I'm getting ready. I'm going to be running for the division commander, and right now I'm the lieutenant commander for the Florida division right now. And I was going to run for that, and I got talking to this fellow, and he said, we could really use some help at the national level. And I said, I've never thought about doing anything nationally. I was 30, I've been in the 30 years at that time. I'd never had a thought of doing anything nationally. So anyway, I gave Lieutenant Commander Boshiers my resume. Said, if you can use me anywhere, let me know. And he got a hold of me and asked me would I be his inspector in chief. So I went to work as the inspector in chief for the S.C.V. We handled some very no fun, interesting cases, but it's a job that most people don't want because it's usually not good news when you're doing these things. So,
that's true.
But I did it for 2 years. But I got to sit around the table and kind of look at the lay of the land and kind of figure out what was good and what was bad, what needed changing. So a couple years goes by, and I talked to some other people and decided that I was going to run for the councilman, the AOT councilman. And I ran successfully for AOT councilman. I put 30,000 miles on and visited all 9 states and got out and talked to people. And my platform was basically on communication. We have to be able, the camps have to be able to communicate to the GEC. And I made sure as a councilman that if anybody had an issue that needed to go to the GEC, I brought it to the table, and very proud to do that. And we'll talk a little bit later. I'll talk some more about some of the things we've been able to establish there. Also, I am the major in the Mechanized Cavalry for 3D. So, I have a pretty full plate, but I enjoy that. So that's kind of how I got in the S.C.V. was through a magazine article.
Yeah.
And I've been ate up with it ever since. I'm proud. I traced 19 Virginia privates that are ancestors of mine. And in the last year, I've found out about a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't know because I only went to the 4 branches. So.
Well, very interesting so far. And I've got to ask you one thing, Roy, before we take our first break and get in some questions. So you said after you retired, you had to do something because you've got that type A personality, got to be busy. Right. Was it your wife wanted you out of her hair a little bit to move and be busy?
Well, in a way, you could say that, but in another way, she backs me and she goes everywhere. She so far has gone, just every trip I've gone on, she's gone. So she's kind of in the middle of it too. And we kind of got the idea that was the thing to do after watching Miss Linda, Jason's Miss Linda. She was everywhere he went and became the aide de camp. And that's kind of what my Linda is now, is the aide de camp.
Well, awesome. We've enjoyed learning so far about you. Know a lot about you now. And so let's do this, guys. We'll go ahead and take our first break here, Jason, and we'll get some things. We'll go over our sponsor list tonight and thank our Patreon sponsors and our show sponsors this evening. And then we'll be coming back with Mr. Roy Hudson, who is our guest tonight, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander in Chief of the S.C.V. We've got some questions here that Moose has prepared, and I know he has a copy of these questions tonight. So we'll do this first break, and we'll be coming back to talk with him some more about his vision and his platform for the S.C.V. And let's say thanks to our Patreon members tonight. Jason, you see this list scrolling across your screen. We couldn't do this tonight without these fine folks that have partnered with S.C.V. Chat to bring you the programs that you hear on the network. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. So thanks to those sponsors. And if you'd like to be one of those, you can simply, a couple of ways, you can visit Patreon and search SCV Chat, or you can go to the website, scvchat.com. You'll find the details about how you can sponsor this program with different levels of membership. And Jason, do you want to mention some of those different levels?
No, thank you, Commander. Yes, I will. The immediate level you can go in as Feed the Moose level. It's $2.50 a month. Then they have a $10 a month level. Then you have a $30 a month level. At that $30 a month level, they call it the merchandise level. And when you're at that level, every so often they send you things, and they're actually pretty cool. I have received a couple of things because I'm at that level, and it's actually pretty cool. And then they have the $80 level. And when you are at the $80 level, you become a show sponsor, such as Dr. Chris Cummings. And I know, John, I know you know Dr. Cummings, and you've actually, I think you visited with him as a doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. He was in Jackson for a while here, just down the road south of me here in West Tennessee, and spent some time here, got to know him, and we had lunch a few times. A great guy, a great physician. Again, he's there near Oxford, and you can go visit him, especially if you're dealing with pain in your knees. I know that's one of his specialties. And as we all get older in time, we all, no matter if you're 40 and up, you're probably experiencing some pain in the joints and knees. So go see Dr. Cummings, again, a great supporter of the SCV and also this program you hear tonight. So we appreciate Dr. Cummings.
Yes, and he was on my staff when I was CiC, and he was good to talk to, and I appreciate everything that he did. And then we have past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney. He has a website, booksbylarry.com, and he has a brand new book out called The Paradox of Freedom. And if you get a chance, go and go to the website. And Larry is also out pushing his books. So if you have an opportunity, talk to Larry, contact him. Hey, come speak to our camp. I'm actually going to see him tomorrow because he's going to be coming in. He's one of the speakers for the book fair this weekend. So, and he's going to have that book there. So if you have an opportunity and you're out and about on Saturday and you're looking for something to do, drive on over to Elm Springs. We're going to start at 9:30 in the morning. Start at 9, but speakers will start at 9:30. And you can come and you can pay a visit. Larry's going to be there. We're going to have, I know, of 3 different speakers. So come on and visit with us there. It is actually, yes, this is the book festival that he's talking about. We're having Shelby Harrell, Joyce Shoemate, and Larry McClooney Jr. And this Behind the Rifle is a very good book by Shelby Harriet Hittleball. And she, it is about females is serving during the war. And that is a very good book. And yes, they do talk about Nellie. That is Robert E. Lee's pet rooster, pet chicken, not pet rooster, pet chicken. And then, of course, Larry McClooney speaking on him. Come down to General Headquarters. Where it's going to happen is inside the house. If any of you have ever been to Elm Springs, you go in the front door, that great big parlor, that's where the book fair is going to happen. So I'd love to see you there, and you can come there and get Larry's book. And then we have 31st Regiment engraving, Southern themed items, custom laser engraving. Go to 31streg engraving.com. And that is Todd, one of our longtime California members. And I tell you, I have visited with the California division. I know, Todd, you know, if you need something done, challenge coins, special bracelets, he makes a bracelet and you can get your descendant, your ancestor on here. You know, not your descendant, you can get your ancestor on there. And, you know, they're just a very good thing to do. And I want to thank Todd for doing that. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate our sponsors tonight. Again, the museum at Market Hall, also one of our sponsors as well this evening. We want to thank them in South Carolina. Of course, if you went to the National Reunion a couple of years ago, Jason, now it's been just a great time down there and got to see. And when the flag is out, they are open.
Yes.
So make sure you go see them, one of our sponsors here at, of course, S.C.V. Chat. And I want to say Tennessee Tuesday. I've got that, guys. If I say that tonight, my apologies, because we're on a different show this evening as we're filling in as co-host tonight. So, again, we want to go ahead and take this first break. We will come back and we'll be talking more with Roy Hudson, who is our guest this evening on our program. So we hope you'll stay with us. We'll be here till a little around 8 o'clock. We've got some questions for him, which is coming up right after this as we continue. And we thank you for being with us.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost. Stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
And welcome back in to Look Around the Confederation on this Thursday evening. I'm John Blankenship, sitting in for Moose tonight, and Jason Boshier is my co-host. Again, we want to say thanks to one more of our sponsors tonight, as we're in a different scene on our software this evening, so I wanted to make sure we pulled up this graphic here tonight. Beauregard's Taylor also is one of our sponsors. You see the things on the screen tonight that they can do. They're a family-owned business offering reproductions there, plus T-shirts, and as well as flags, lapel pins, and more. Their website is beauregardstaylor.shop. If you go there, you will learn more about them, and they're another one of our sponsors here at S.C.V. Chat. So welcome back into the show this evening. Our special guest is Mr. Roy Hudson, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the S.C.V. And Roy, we're glad to have you tonight. And if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump in some questions that you've got. You've seen these questions this evening, and we'll kind of go through these. We'll go ahead, a little programming note. A couple of these may be kind of repetitive. So if you hear some things that we say kind of twice, Roy may jump from some of those and not go as deep on those if he's talked about them. So we do appreciate him being with us here tonight, and we're looking forward to hearing about his platform. And Roy, as we get started, of course, we won't be able to get all the questions answered that people may want to know tonight, but they do have an option that they can go to your website that you have set up. We want to go ahead and promo that to start, scvroyhudson.com. And Roy, they can, I guess, found out all the information and also contact information for you too, right?
Yes, sir. I share my email and phone number with anybody in the SCV.
Simple enough. It's easy to find all the details you need to know is available there. So, Jason, let's go ahead and we'll jump into some of those questions. I've done a lot of talking tonight, so I'm going to let you lead off with, if you've got that list of questions there, I'm going to let you lead off with a couple for Mr. Hudson this evening.
Yes, well, Roy, thank you for this. Honored to have you here. What motivated you to run for a position on the General Executive Council of the Sons of Confederate Veterans?
Well, I think in the last segment, I answered a little bit of that, basically talking with people I respect and taking the job as the inspector in chief kind of motivated me to get involved with the national scene. And then I ran successfully for the AOT councilman. And that really opened my eyes to what's going on nationally for us. And I was pretty content. I was probably going to stay in that position for another term, maybe consider Army commander at some point. And one evening in June, about 9:30 at night, my phone rang. It was somebody I respect a great deal. And they said, your name is coming up an awful lot. And I said, oh, God, what did I do? And they said, no, it's good. Have you thought about running for lieutenant commander in chief? I said, no, I have not. I have no earthly inkling to do that. Well, there's a lot of people that think you would be really good. You work hard, you do a good job for the S.C.V, and we think you'd be a great lieutenant commander in chief. And I said, well, I can't promise you I'm going to do that. I said, that's a huge commitment for changing your life for several years, changing my wife's life for several years. So I can't do that, but I'll think about it. And over the next 2 days, my phone was ringing off the hook. Some people that I knew and respected asking me to do this, and some people I'd never even met before, coming from armies where, I knew people in the AOT pretty well, but I'm getting calls from the Army of Trans-Mississippi. I'm getting calls from the A&V. Listen, everybody knows you're a workhorse. We want somebody who's going to work for us, who's going to be out there. And I told him, I just the original caller, I called him back and says, listen, I got to clear it with my wife and I got to pray about it. I said, it's going to take me a couple of weeks. So I prayed for 10 days. I hardly slept. And finally, I got what I consider an appropriate sign that it was the correct thing to do. And so with the blessing of my Lord and the blessing of my wife, I decided to go ahead and step into the arena and do this because of I'm kind of uniquely qualified.
All right, Roy. Well, thank you for that comment tonight, and we'll go ahead and keep on going through the questions tonight. This next one, in your opinion, what are the most pressing challenges facing the S.C.V, and what's your plan to address them?
Well, you hear this in all the campaigns because one of the major jobs, of course, as lieutenant commander is recruiting and retention. Those words get used so much. In my platform, I offer solid, tangible things we can do, not just studies and committees. And the first one, we've developed a program. It came out of one of my camps in Central Florida. Developed a program called the Community Service Corps. And when I heard about it, I went and inspected and looked at it. And I said, I want this to be part of the national platform because this camp, which is not a huge camp, they did something that some camps have done, but they've got it organized. They've got a whole program on how to do it, but they went out and wanted to get involved with the community. So what they did is they went to the American Legion, they went to the VFW and said, well, who are you? We're the Sons of Confederate Veterans. We're the oldest Confederate, constantly operating veterans organization in the country. And they kind of turned their nose up at them and stuff like that. And they went back and said, hey, we would really like to be involved with you guys. We got some pretty good people in our camp. Do you have anybody in your camp that's disabled that might need a wheelchair ramp? And they looked at each other. Yeah, we do. Well, my guys will come over and build it. And that's kind of how it started. And next thing you know, they're getting phone calls. Hey, we've got a veteran over here whose yard needs cleaning up. Hey, we got people that need help with these different items. And next thing you know, the community is opening up. They're getting invited to go on radio stations and stuff like that. And it's all about getting publicity for doing good things where people don't think we're the boogeyman hiding behind a wall or a sheet somewhere and letting them know, hey, we're good guys. A lot of us are veterans, and we're just there to help the community. And I thought this was a tremendous idea. And right now, it's at least 3 camps in Florida doing it. And I know that Tom Wood in your state is looking right now at
Yeah.
taking this program on. So I think that, that is a solid program that we could offer to any camp. Does every camp need this? No, there are some camps that are really active and are doing some great things. I like to quote our camp in Jacksonville, 1209. One of the things they did a year or so ago, which I thought was stupendous, they were out cleaning up a cemetery, and some people heard about it, and they came to them, and it was a black man from an old black church in Jacksonville said, we got a cemetery, got a lot of veterans in it, and could you help us clean that up? Well, they went there, they cleaned brush out, they D2'd the headstones, they cleaned everything up, and here it is on the front of the newspaper, Sons of Confederate Veterans helping folks at this black church. I mean, you can't buy publicity like that. That is just great stuff. So anyway, Community Service Corps would be one thing that I'm talking about doing. Second thing, and this one gets beat to death a little bit, but it's something I ran on as AOT Councilman, is communications. We have to reach out to people in different ways than we've done in the past. And that involves social media platforms. That is where people get their information nowadays. And I was very fortunate that Commander Kennedy realized that I ran on that platform on communications. And so about a year ago, he says, I'm going to start a communications committee and I'm going to ask Roy Hudson to chair it. And somebody said, well, we already have one of those. And somebody else said, yeah, they didn't do anything. Well, I don't believe in not doing anything. So I says, if you want me to do this, I'll do it, but we're going to do something. We're going to make results. And at the GEC meeting that we just left a week ago, what came out of it was amazing. We're going to get ready to go live on Facebook, Instagram, and X in the next month or so. S.C.V. will be there. And for the first time in the 20 some odd years we've needed it, we are signed a contract and we're getting a brand new website for the S.C.V. because everybody knows our website stinks. It's not user friendly. I've been trying to get on the protected area of it for 4 years, and every time I type in, we don't recognize your email. I call Eric. Oh, we'll get you fixed up. Okay, it's been going for 4 years. I've given up. So we were actually accomplishing something that has been needed to be fixed for 20 years. The S.C.V. with the support of this GEC has got that going. So that's something that we're already in the works with. So that's pretty impressive. Another program that I've got a vendor who's also an S.C.V. member here in Florida, and he's talked to me. He says, if we can get the support of the S.C.V. for some advertising stuff, I will start Confederate Radio. It is a computer radio station. And basically what they're talking about is something you can get an app, put it on your phone so you can listen to it anywhere, but they would play country music, bluegrass, classic rock and roll, and intermittent throughout there would be messages from the S.C.V., history, all these type of things. That'd be 24/7 project. That reaches people that we can't reach in other ways. And it's really cheap. He said he would incur the cost of setting it up, which I think is about 15 grand, as long as the S.C.V. would do some advertising on it. So that's another solid method that we can use to really work on the recruiting. So, and of course, we need to keep doing some of the things that we're doing. I like the billboard program that Tony Griffin has got going because that puts our name out there. You may not recruit a lot of people off of it, but people need to know who we are. And like I said, I come from a Confederate family and I didn't know about the S.C.V. until 1991. I mean, that is ridiculous. I had grandpas that were in the UCV. I didn't know about the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So so we need to get our name out there. And these are some ways that you'll be able to do it.
Well, all right, Roy, well, continuing along, this kind of goes along what you've kind of touched on
Sure.
some of these tonight. And some of these questions we have may sound a little repetitive, but
Right.
I think we'll get some different stuff out of
Sure.
you as we go along, as we
Yes,
prompt
sir.
some of these. This next one, kind of looking at public perception, how do you want to navigate potential controversies and any criticisms that might be out there
Okay.
about the S.C.V.?
We did skip over the retention. You want to do that?
We can go whatever order you want to go. I don't have it in my
Well,
list there.
okay,
So
the
I may be out of
retention
order.
was the next one. Just wanted to very quickly, it says, I can talk about retention very simply. There's three kind of members. There's a member who wants a certificate and you never see him again. There's a member that shows up to a camp meeting, comes to a couple of meetings, and they're not welcome. They don't feel anything and they don't come back. And there's the other member who is a good, solid member who gets into a personality conflict with somebody and stays away. Those are the three issues. As far as retention, the one that just gets a certificate, we were just talking one in my camp tonight. His daughter got him a certificate. We can't get him on the phone, can't get him to return anything. But the ones that come to a meeting, if they are welcomed, if we approach these people, we welcome them and we make them feel like they're part of the program. We find out what they're interested in. Are they interested in parades? Are they interested in reenactment? Are they interested in cleaning up cemeteries? Any type of heritage operations? We hook them in something really quick so they feel they're part of the team. And that's what you got to do to get people to come back and to be retained. It's so easy to lose people. If they're not interested, they're not going to stay involved, especially younger people. They have to be mission driven. And that's something we need to think about. So that's something that is real important to me.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, I'm going to let you go with the next question for him.
The public.
Now, I think that my mic might be causing the bad echo, so I turned it off. Did the echo go away?
I think it did. I think that solved some of it. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I believe it is my mic. So I'll keep the question brief and then I will mute myself. What leadership qualities do you believe are essential for someone serving as second in command of this organization?
You have really skipped over a whole bunch of questions.
Well, I think our questions may be a little out of order.
Okay.
Roy. I think by what we've got from the email that I'm bringing here from Moose, they may be a little out of.
Well, let me go ahead and answer that for you, Jason.
Yeah.
Leadership qualities, very simple. You must be bold. You can't be timid when you're in a leadership position. You have to lead from the front, like our ancestors did. General Forrest didn't have 32 horses shot out from under him, sitting in a tent in the back somewhere. You've got to be out front. You got to be honest with people. You can't lie to people. We can't point them in the direction where we're not going. You got to be straight up with folks. People appreciate the truth, even if it's not what they want to hear. You have to possess great communication skills. If you're not a communicator, it's hard. When I taught leadership programs all over the country, the biggest thing I honed on is you got to return emails, you got to return phone calls, you got to return text. You have to have communication ability. If you don't, people won't talk to you. They'll cut you off after a while. You must possess a hard work ethic. If you're not motivated to work, and some people want a title, I want a job, and it is a job. And I'll say this, not to embarrass your co-host there, Mr. Blankenship, but Jason's like the hardest working guy in the S.C.V. and in my opinion. And I've often said people need to work with him. I mean, I remember him being CiC and me pulling up at headquarters and he's out there cutting the grass and laying down mulch and stuff. That's a heck of a CiC. So you got to do that. And the other thing is you got to be a servant leader. There's a lot of type of leaders. You've got to be a servant leader. You got to know you're there serving the people, and you've got to answer their questions. You got to handle their concerns. And if you possess those qualities, you can do a great job as a leader.
Well, let's kind of go back, if you want to, Roy, that question. I know some of these have gotten a little out of order by the same order you've got. Hopefully we'll make them through them okay.
Okay, no problem.
Let's go back to the public perception question, if that's all right with you. And how do we navigate some of those controversies and criticisms that may be out there about the S.C.V.? How do we deal with those?
Well, first of all, again, I've got a lot of experience dealing with negative perception stuff. Being a law enforcement executive, I've spent a long time in front of media and news, answering questions, being on TV programs and stuff like that. And again, the truth. You got to lead with the truth. And You have to be direct and honest with people. And we have to build allies. If we want public perception to change, we have to build allies with other historical organizations. Again, one thing Commander Boshears did is he had a summit at Elm Springs and brought in people from all types of historical organizations. I just a month ago went to the grand reopening of a Grand Army of the Republic Hall. Now, I was surrounded by Yankees, but you know what? When I got talking to them, they would support a lot of stuff that we want to do because they realize we're all in a fight to save American heritage. And that's important. We got to reach across the fence. The days of building walls has to go away. We can't hate a brother organization. Our organization had a rough time about 20 years ago, and some people are still pretty upset about that. And it's the wrong way to be. We've got to open a door. They have the same concerns we have. And if we work together, we can get a whole lot more done. So that's the way you take on controversial stuff. Is you take it head on, you're honest, you work hard to do it, and you get allies.
Absolutely. Well, our guest this evening is Roy Hudson, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander in Chief of the S.C.V. Roy, if it's okay, let's do a quick minute-and-a-half commercial break. We'll come by and let's kind of look at our questions here that we got, make sure we're in the same order and get us all in the same order there again. And we'll come back and we'll have that part straight as we continue on Look Around the Confederation on S.C.V. Chat. We'll be right back.
I am Rabbi Thomas Fortenberry. I'm a descendant of Isaac Fortenberry, a Confederate veteran. Many of the people in my family were veterans. As a military veteran, I served with the United States Army. It's important to veterans of all wars to remember those who have passed and what they did and what they suffered. Everyone who serves gives a part of themselves. The S.C.V. is much a part of that. The S.C.V. serves people, not only the people that are involved as members, but the community. My commitment to the S.C.V. is a commitment to our heritage, our cause, not in a violent way nor aggressive way, simply in the way we live. Live what you believe, but in your defense, know in what you're defending, and defend it truthfully. May Yahovah bless you and keep you. May Yahovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace and blessing.
And we're back on Look Around Confederation on S.C.V. Chat. I'm your guest host tonight, John Blankenship, by my guest co-host, Jason Boshears. And our special guest this evening is Roy Hudson, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander in Chief of the S.C.V. And we're glad he's here with us. And he's got the questions in ahead of time here, so he can kind of prepare for them. It's each candidate received, but somehow our email questions are out of order from what each one of us have. But we are bearing through that tonight, but he does have the same questions we have. And Roy, we appreciate you taking your time out to be with us this evening to go through these. And let's go ahead and jump back in and kind of continue with these this evening. And we've kind of talked a little bit about recruitment here. So there's a couple of questions that are going to kind of go along with this. How would we modernize some of our recruitment efforts to gain new membership to keep our organization growing?
Well, again, we've talked about those previously, so make it quick. We are doing that. We've started reaching out on social media platforms. Again, we're going live in the next month on 3 different platforms at this point. Again, using something like the Confederate radio that we've talked about, that'll reach out to more people. There's a couple different categories of folks. We want to reach out to all people, and I'm sure this is covered in a different question, but we want to reach out to our young folks. And I really like the idea of the cadet program, but we can't just say we're having a cadet program and we're going to send them a pin and a certificate, because that doesn't do anything. No one holds interest and it falls apart. If you're going to have one, you have to make it interesting. You have to make it active. You have to have people that want it to be a living, breathing thing. So the cadet program is important if you can run it right. If you can't run it right and you're just going to hand them a certificate, it's not worth having. So that's one thing. The other group we've talked about, a lot of us have anyway, is that age group between 35 and 55. You know, people that they're into their careers, they've started raising their families, they're getting to the point where the kids are kind of self-maintaining, and they're getting to the point where they're maybe getting ready to lose their mom and dad. And that makes you start thinking about, who am I? What's my heritage? Those type of things. That is a really good group to concentrate on. And we have to use all the media, not only the social media platforms, but we need to keep doing stuff like yard signs and billboards, stuff to get our name out there. We need to be active. We need to get people that will put up recruiting booths at county fairs, that'll go to gun shows. My camp's been to 3 gun shows in the last 3 months, and we just got 6 hard interested folks at this last one last week. We've got good names, people that stopped, talked, and were really interested. So we're hoping to develop those. So you have to reach across all the lines. Also, we have sister organizations that have, like, the Children of the Confederacy. We need to make sure that liaison is open. Those are kids that are going to grow up being Southern, knowing who they are when they're young. They're perfect to come over into our organization. Our youth camps are Sam Davis youth camps. We need to build those. I mean, they're really great. The kids that go to them absolutely love it, but we should be having twice the attendance that we have in those camps. But those are ways to reach other generations of people that we need to bring into the big tent. Again, no more walls. We need to open those, tear those walls down, and bring those people in.
Well, Roy, as we continue along, this next question is kind of probably going to take 2 of these questions in, but I think they both kind of come together. The role of the Lieutenant Commander in Chief. Where do they play there? What are some of the leadership qualities that person that's really second in command of our organization should have? And how should they represent the S.C.V. and also a public image, not also just in the organization?
Well, certainly the Lieutenant Commander in Chief, we've talked about it till the cows came home. Recruiting and retention is a primary job. But bigger than that, really, is you are one of the faces of the S.C.V. We have a huge organization. We have over 800 camps. The Commander-in-Chief, as hard as he tries, cannot go to every event in every camp. And I think Jason will attest to that. As hard as you ran, you could not be everywhere, and we can't clone ourselves. So the Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief should be available to go and fill in for the Commander-in-Chief at some of these events around the nation. He should be there. He should be able to go to divisions of camps and talk about recruiting and retention and find out what's going on in the local divisions. Because if the Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief works hard enough, very possibly in a couple of years, that person will become the Commander-in-Chief. So he should have his fingers fully in the pie. And God forbid something happens to your CiC, an illness or something in the family, you're going to have to step in and take the role. And I'm an old infantry guy, and we had you train the guy below you to take your job, and you train to take the guy above you job. And so that's all part of it. But believe me when I tell you, when you step up in front of the people in different organizations, they look at you. I'm the AOT councilman, so I'm not the exalted poobah of our organization. But when I went up to that GAR hall, I was representing our CiC and our organization, and those people there treated me that way. So you have to show up. You have to be prepared, and you have to know what you're talking about. And you have to be truthful. You can't wing it and make stuff up. I never will forget going to a camp meeting and having a camp commander talk about Robert E. Lee and said, you know what? He spent so much time out there as a surveyor that they called him Marsh Robert. I'll tell you in person one day who that was, but nevertheless, I'm going, oh my goodness, but now if he was talking to a bunch of school kids, what do you think they were going to think?
Yeah.
He was a surveyor. They called him Marsh because he spent so much time in the marsh. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to be truthful, and you have to bring the right appearance and package when you're presenting yourself representing our organization.
But Roy, I know I'm kind of going off the question a little bit here, but we talk about leadership qualities there. And I know you've touched on, as we started the program, some of your past experience outside of the S.C.V. How do you bring that in to the leadership role?
Well, that's what's unique about me. I'm the only person that brings real leadership experience to the organization. in my professional life, I spent 49 years in law enforcement. I did every job from the lowest guy to the sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, director, chief, did all those jobs. And I have been a CEO of 2 organizations. I've been the chief operating officer of another organization responsible for 500 people and a $50 million budget. So I know how organizations work. I've also been the number 3 guy at the Florida Sheriff's Association, which is the second largest law enforcement 501c3 in the country, which we are a nonprofit organization ourselves. So I understand how all these things work. And that's what gives me a real unique perspective. I can look at organizations, make an assessment, and decide what needs to be done to fix things and to put things on the right track and to make them grow. That's what I've done in my professional life, and I can do that here.
Well, let's kind of jump a little bit to this question here, Roy. We've talked a little bit about how we communicate and the different avenues we can use, such as social media. As you're using social media, and speaking specifically to that, how do we communicate our mission better to younger people that are on those platforms? How do we reach them?
Well, I'm learning a lot about social media that I didn't know a few years ago, but I know right now one of the hooks that they're using is something called a short, which is basically a minute long or less. I used to think, okay, do 20 minutes, but I understand the attention span isn't that great. So you have to hit them with something that's really eye-catching and gets their attention quick that make them go to the other site. But those shorts are real important. And I would engage some of our people like Harrison that has the knowledge, and maybe yourself, to come up with some of these shorts. I mean, I love the videos we've done. Sammy's the one that comes to mind. That's a great video. But I want us to have these shorts that we can put on these platforms that will make people refer them, whether to the museum or refer them somewhere where they can get more information on these topics. And I still think we do the shorts, plus we do some more videos that talk about our organization, who we are. I want people to know that we are the oldest continuously operating veterans organization. I mean, I think the veteran angle is really important. And for whatever reason, our organization seems to attract a lot of veterans. And I think, if you get the people at the local VFW and American Legion and so forth to realize who you are, that'll give us an army of support that we may not have. So there are different ways to do it, but I think these shorts backed up by some real good videos would help bring in some younger folks.
Roy, a question I've got here for you, and it kind of goes to this. How do you connect with people, especially a younger generation that may not sit in meetings? How do you connect with them on a more personal level? How do you make the S.C.V. personal to them, that it's something that matters to them?
Well, that's it. First of all, we all know that our culture has been crushed by education system. And so we have to make what we do interesting and attractive. One thing that I think is living history. If you've ever participated in living history during a school day, you bring weapons, you bring uniforms, stuff. These kids eat it up and they love it. And we need to work really hard in getting back into schools. That's one thing. We've been kind of kicked out of schools for a while. We need to work hard to get into schools. We really need to work hard on getting the schools to accept the Hundley Award again. Because the school, we used to give out a lot of Hundleys, and now, the government says we can't do those. That was always a door opener. One of your division gentlemen came up with a program I watched maybe a year or two ago, talking about that they've come up with an award to give it at the FFA or 4-H
agricultural award.
And I think that is stupendous. I mean, my granddaughter just ran for Fair Queen this year. She showed another pig this year and did really well. And those kids, I wish we had that award here in Florida, because we have a lot. People think of Florida as palm trees and beaches, but we have a lot of cowboys. We have a lot of rural, a lot of agriculture. And so things like that we don't do on a regular basis, we should try to do on a regular basis to touch base with these kids while they're still young and forming opinions.
There's a comment here from Commander-in-Chief Kennedy. I want to mention this one because it goes along with what you just said. Work on getting more into homeschool and private schools. We don't talk a whole lot about that. We talk just about the public, but there's another avenue to look at.
It is homeschooling is something that is growing immensely in our country because conservative people are getting fed up with what their kids are being indoctrinated in public schools nowadays. And I think Commander Kennedy has hit the nail on the head. That's something that in my camp, we have one of our people is a city commissioner in Palm Bay, Florida, and he's got us into one homeschooling system right now. And that's great. Any way we can get to schools, public if we could, but homeschooling is certainly growing, and that would be a ripe field, because I can tell you, I've been out, we do a program in my camp where we take all the flags of the Confederacy and the U.S. flag, and we do a flag program at like county fairs and stuff. We tell them the history of all the flags. And some of the biggest interest we got were people, hey, can you come up and talk to our kids? We have a homeschooling thing. So the homeschool is ripe for picking.
Absolutely. Well, Roy Hudson is our guest this evening, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander in Chief. And Roy, as we're getting about out of time here, we're trying to keep it to about an hour and 20 minutes tonight.
Yes,
the couple last questions here. If at the end of your term you're successful here and you win this election, what are the specific accomplishments that you would define success for you as you would wrap up Lieutenant Commander in Chief? What would you like to see those be?
I think success for any Lieutenant Commander in Chief, first of all, is we want to stop the bleeding. We want to stop the loss of membership. So if we can slow it down or stop the loss of membership, that's a victory. If we can increase recruiting, that's a victory. Both of those things are measurable. And the other thing that I think of is in the end of the term, have you brought the S.C.V. more into the 21st century? Or are we doing things that appeal to a wider group of people? We need to cast a broad net. I always have said that the Confederate Army was the most diverse army our nation had ever seen at that point. And sometimes we don't do a good job of casting that wide net, reaching out to everybody. And people like Rich Garcia have helped shine a light on that. And I believe honestly that we really need to work on expanding that net. I think a lot of people are coming up now and realizing that, hey, there were actually Black Confederates. There were Jewish Confederates. There were Hispanic Confederates. So we need to work on casting the net a little wider.
Well, I guess the last question I have, and then we'll give you a moment here to add anything you would like to add in. So what makes you the right person at this time to be in the role of Lieutenant Commander in Chief?
Well, I think my 35 years in the S.C.V. have opened my eyes to a lot. I understand what it's like to be in a camp and not know what is happening at National. I know how hard it is sometimes to get an answer or something. And I think that some of the programs that I have in mind will open up the doors. There's another program where I want to start a Confederate Officers Training Corps. I don't know how many people in the audience have taken a job in a camp with no training, didn't know it. I know I was a camp commander with no training. I want anyone to get selected to be able to go online and pull up a training course that we've put together, and I can do it. I've got the capability to do it. But at this juncture, we were in a terrible place 20 years ago, and we had a big divorce. It cost the S.C.V. members, cost us MOS and B members. It hurt us financially, and we've tried to build from that. And some very good intending people have worked hard at that. But at this point, we have the same problem we had 20 years ago. You've got a bunch of people have been sitting around a table for 12, 14, 16, 18 years, and they want to continue to run down the same road. And unless you come in and change things and work hard and get this ship turned around and going in a different direction, we're going to continue to lose. We've lost 1/3 of our membership in 9 years. We can't continue to do this, or in 10 years, we're not going to have an organization. And I'm a guy who knows how to fix organizations.
Well, Roy Hudson has been our guest this evening. Of course, he is a candidate for Lieutenant Commander in Chief of the S.C.V. And Roy, I'm going to go ahead and put your website on the screen again. So tonight, if there's things that you didn't get to answer or people have more questions for you, they can reach out to you there. But as we wrap up, is there any final comments, anything you wanted to add that we may have missed tonight?
No, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I encourage people to go look at my website. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me by email. And if you want to talk to me on the phone, I'll send you my phone number. I'm willing to answer any questions. I'll always give you a straight shot, and whether it's what you want to hear or not.
Well, again, Roy, thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight. Again, know this door is always open to be on any of our programs, and you're going to be joining me. And I don't have my calendar in front of me. Is it the 31st?
31st.
31st of this month, you'll be back on with me here on Tennessee Tuesday, and we'll have a little more relaxed, not as question oriented in that one, more conversation as well. So I hope folks learned about you tonight. Again, they can reach out to you if they have more questions about your platform. So Roy, again, thank you so much.
You all have a good Dixie evening. Thank you.
You too. Well, all right, we'll go ahead and take one more break. We're going to come back, and then we've got a few things as we look around the Confederation and activities that have been going on. We'll be right back after this.
My dad told me he always had a kinship to the battle flag. Always growing up, he knew there was something there, but he couldn't put it together. I called my 97-year-old grandmother, and I asked her, do we have any soldiers in the family? I gave her 3 descriptions. Verde, which means green for modern day soldier. Blue, azul, or gris means gray. And she said, mijo, which means my son in Spanish is gris. It was gray. My great-great-grandfather was named Andres Torres Rodriguez. He was born in Mexico. He was a laborer. And he was an 8th Texas Infantry. And his unit later on got incorporated to the Texas 33rd Cavalry under Santos Benavides, who was the highest Mexican-American Confederate officer. He was a colonel. There was over 13,000 Hispanic soldiers throughout the Confederate States, but out of those 13,000 were 2,500 Tejanos. And it's 2 words combined. Texas in Spanish is Tejas. Mexican in Spanish, Mexicano. You combine both words, Tejano. They contributed a lot for Southern independence. I think that they deserve respect, honor, and dignity under the Confederate flag that they fought for. There was people of color, Mexican people, and other Hispanics, and other people of color that fought in this war. Everyone's reason was different, but primarily they fought in this war for their independence and to protect their homeland. I joined the S.C.V. because I'm extremely proud of my Confederate heritage. I have Confederate DNA. I just want to ensure that the present generation and future generations know and never forget the contributions of Hispanics in the War of Northern Aggression. I am Richard Luna Garcia, the great-great-grandson of Private Andres Torres Rodriguez, a Tejano Confederate soldier.
And welcome back into the special edition of Look Around the Confederation. John Blankenship, Jason Boshears, and Roy Hudson has been our guest this evening. And Rich does a fantastic job. That's one of my favorites of those sets of videos, maybe because he's here in Tennessee, but just does a fantastic job. If you've never heard him do that program, you should book him to come to your camp. You will be thoroughly enjoy that and be informed as well. So Roy, as we kind of jump into a few events, let's kind of put on a different hat a moment if you want to, and let's talk about the Army of Tennessee and your role as a councilman there. You want to leave us with some comments of what you've been working on and kind of going on there?
Well, with the Army of Tennessee, I've been really busy, unfortunately, with some issues that were discussed at GEC. Been real busy with those. I've been traveling a lot, been spending a lot of time with some camps. We've been coursing, we're looking at some heritage issues that we've been working on, and just generally going 100 miles an hour trying to take care of things for the different states that are involved. We trying to reach out and reinvigorate some of our people up in Indiana, and been in contact with Michigan also. But some of those people that are way up there behind enemy lines, they don't get a lot of support.
Yeah. Yep. Well, do appreciate all your work you're doing there as the councilman representing us there on the GEC and the Army of Tennessee. Appreciate your work there. And gentlemen, let's go over a few things that have been going on and that are coming up. And one of those we want to go ahead and mention, since it's coming up again Saturday, March the 14th. That's this Saturday, just a couple of days away now, the Sam Watkins Book Festival, which is going to be at HQ at a historic Elm Springs in Columbia. And Jason, you want to jump in and I know you're real close to Elm Springs, so you've been involved in helping with the many projects. There's a great lineup of speakers, and also if you love books on the war between the states, you can take many of those home.
Yes, we have had a great number of books that have been donated. Most of them recently. A huge shipment, 100 boxes of books come from the Mechanized Cavalry, and Adam has been working very diligently. And any multiple copies that we have, they will be available for purchase. Hardback books are $5. Paperbacks are $2. I do have one problem. It seems like every time that I go up there, I walk past the used book shelf and something always catches my attention.
So you're buying the product for Saturday in advance. Is that what you're saying? You're already buying it, Jason? Is this what's happening?
Well, no, sir, not these particular ones, because Adam won't let me near them. Because Adam was very polite, and he goes, "No, these are great books. I'll move them over," you know. But we'll be busy tomorrow. I'll be up there tomorrow. We'll be setting the room up and getting the books available. There are a great number of very good books up there.
And Jason, let me say this about Adam Southern, who spent, like, I work in the library world now as the director of a library. He was also in that previous before coming to the S.C.V. So he understands cataloging books and curating a collection, and he's done a fantastic job there in our library and curating a collection of adding books and seeing those donations come in. And now the ones that need to go on sale to bring further funds back to our organization, he knows the proper ones to let go of, what we need to hang on to.
And he does, and he really does a fantastic job. Today, I was up there shooting the videos that you saw on Facebook. Went and visited with him, and he was going through the books again. He really does a fantastic job. He cares about the organization, cares about the museum, and I have worked with him on this before, and I tell you, he really does a fantastic job. And we really need to thank everyone who has donated books to make this happen. And it's our members. And I have donated books. It seems like I'll donate 5 books, and over the course of 2 months, I'll buy 7. You know, so it's quite addictive to have the place up there that we have that is this close. And there's a lot of people that come in there just to buy books.
Absolutely. And again, that's coming up, the Sam Watkins Book Festival. It's this Saturday. Jason, those times there are from, it opens, I believe, officially at 9, that you can come in, carries all the way. Is it to 4 o'clock?
Yes, sir. It does. Well, the grounds will be open from 9 until 4. At 9:30, Miss Shelby Heidelball will be on from 9:30 to 10:30. Joyce Shoemate will be on from 10:45 to 11:45, and Larry McClooney from 12 until 1.
So that's coming up this Saturday there at Elm Springs. Jason, I'm assuming the museum is open as well during this time.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So make your plans to come up Saturday. Going to be a good time. I plan to be there and bring some books home that I need. Some may say I don't need, but I need some more. So I'm sure I'll find some things, and you can as well. Roy, I see you got your finger up. Are you scrolling? Or are you trying to get my attention?
I'm actually, there's something I wanted to mention that has nothing to do with politics or running for office. We are, on April the 4th, we are rededicating the Cavalry Monument in Dade City, Florida, at the Dade City Pioneer Museum. That's another Confederate victory. We're putting a monument back where it's available for the public. It was donated to, the ladies of the UDC worked really hard to get that back, and our S.C.V. people have helped. And the monument rededication is April the 4th, I think at 11 o'clock for anybody that could possibly attend. I am definitely going to be there.
Absolutely. That'll be a good event as well. And another one coming up close to us here in Tennessee is going to be the Highland Brigades, General Patrick Claiborne and St. Patrick's Day dinner. That's coming up not too far away. It'll be on March the 21st there in Monterey. So if you're interested in attending that event, you can reach out to the dealer Judd Kemp and Mike Dunn, and he will help get you there and let you be a part of that event. So they worked hard to put that together that's going to be another nice event. And of course, we want to mention our 2026 National Chaplains Conference. There's the registration you see on the screen. It's coming up on March the 28th. That's from 9 until 3. And if you haven't paid your attendance fee and got booked, your time is running out to do so. And I know that room will fill up fast there at Elm Springs. And so make your plans to be at the Chaplains Conference that's coming up on March the 28th. Well, gentlemen, that's the events that I have in the list tonight that we've got to share. And Jason, anything else you know that you want to share tonight?
No, sir. Now, Roy, thank you for coming on.
Thank you all for having me.
Yes, sir. And I look forward to seeing you on the 31st when you visit us on Tennessee Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great rest of this evening. We thank you for all the comments and those that have been following along with us on the show. If you'd like to be a sponsor of this program, learn more about all of our shows again tonight, you can visit scvchat.com. All of those details are there. Of course, follow on the many social media outlets. And again, I'll be back with you. And Jason, do you have a camp meeting Tuesday night?
Yes, sir. I do have a meeting on Tuesday night. We meet on the third Tuesday. As you know, this past Tuesday night, I was at the Hatton Camp 723, where I spoke on Pat Claiborne. And then I have I have my camp meeting this coming Tuesday night. So
we'll miss you Tuesday. Mike Beck is going to be our guest. He's helping organize the Tennessee Division reunion in April, which is just a little bit more than a month away. And he's going to be on with us to talk about all the activities happening there. Again, thank y'all for listening tonight. Roy, again, thank you for being with us, and we will see you soon. Have a great rest of your evening, and God bless.